Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abdullah and I'm attempting to solve the questions in competition day 1 of the Python competition. In this problem, we need to find the minimum, the maximum, and the minimal value of the three numbers that the user needs to input. The output of the program should be the three numbers that the user entered, then the smallest, the middle, and the largest number of these three. The first attempt was as such. We used a while loop to enable the user to input the three numbers in 3 attempts. The loop will be broken when a equals to 3. That's why in the beginning a was assigned with a value called to 0. It was initialized with a 0 value. For each time the user input a digit, this a will be increased by 1. After the user has input the 3 digits, the for loop will start to calculate the maximum, the minimum, and the middle value. In this example, we used max function, which finds the largest number in a list. Then we assign this maximum value to max1. The function min will find the least number of a list, and thus we used it and assigned the value to min1. These numbers were stored in a list that we created before the while loop, and which was empty, and then stored the numbers from the user using append command. So these two variables or values were removed from the list, which only left the one digit in this list, and that digit is definitely the middle value, since we removed the minimum and the maximum. Afterwards, we printed the 3 values using a print command. So we printed max1, mid, and min1, and in a separate line we printed the separate values. To improve this solution, we still used the list to store the values from the user, and then instead of using while loop, we used for. For loop starts with a specific value, then increase by a specific number, which by default is 1. So here the for value, the first value of the for loop, which we called I, is in range 0 to 3. So it will start from 0, then 1, 2, and stops at 3. When it reaches 3, commands inside the for loop will not be executed. Only 0, 1, 2 will be executed. In such a case, the user will enter the values, the first one, which will be corresponding to the 0 here, then the 1, then the 2, 3 times. And each time, his input will be stored in the list. Afterwards, we will use the same functions that we used previously to find the max1 and min1 by using the function max and min. Now, since we have only 3 digits in this list, if we excluded these 2 values, the min and the max, we will be left with the middle value. For that, we used a for loop again, and for each number in the list, if the number is not equal to the max, and also the number is not equal to the min, then the mid will be the number, the mid one. So excluding the max and the minimum will be left with the middle value. Afterwards, we just print again the values. Another solution is using the same for loop in the past example, but now we use a sort function. Sort function sorts the values in a list in an ascending order, but can also be used for descending order. By default, it sorts the items or the numbers or the letters in a list in an ascending order. It doesn't only reorder, but also change the list. So the list now will be ordered from the smallest to the largest number in ascending order. Thus, if we print the first item, which corresponds to the index 0 in the list, it will be the smallest. That's why here we have the largest, which is the third number, or the 3, corresponding to the index 2. So the index are 0, 1, 2. The third one will be the index 2. The smallest will be the first one, which corresponds to the index 0, and obviously number 1 will be the middle value. This was the first question. Question 2 asks the user to find the first 15 numbers of the Ibn Qurra numbers. The Ibn Qurra can be calculated using this function, 3 multiplied by 2 to the power n minus 1, for n is larger or equal to 0. The program has to display the 5 Ibn Qurra digit numbers per line, as in the sample below. So for each 5 numbers, we have to move to a new line. We will use for loop to solve this question as well. So we can use 3 for loops. For first for loop will be from 0 to 5. So the numbers will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 will not be included since it's the end of the range. In such, Ibn Qurra's first number will be 3 multiplied by 2 to the power number, which will be in the beginning 0 in the first attempt, minus 1. Then this number will be printed. To keep the numbers printed in the same line, because by default, each time you print something in Python, then you print again, it will go to the next line. So by default, printing in Python is in a new line. To keep this from happening, or to prevent that from happening, we use end. End can be here passed with parameters, but if you keep it empty like this, it means not to go to a new line, because by default it's almost like we use in C a new line. But if you keep it empty, that means to print the values, Ibn Qurra values, in the same line and not in a new line. So the first attempt will be 0, then 1, then 2, and for each time the printing will be on the same line until it reaches the 5th number, which is 4. Then the for loop will be broken, and to go to the next line, to print the second 5, we have to put print. It's just a print to move to the new line, because by default it prints nothing here. It only goes to the next line. The same thing happens for the second 5, which will start at 5 here. 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 10 will be excluded, obviously. The same thing happens, printing in the same line for each time they find a value of Ibn Qurra. Then the third 5 as well. But we can do this in a better way by creating one for loop. This for loop will start at 0 and goes up to 15, and each time the Ibn Qurra numbers k will be found as per the same function. But in this time we have a condition that if the number is 4 or 9, the fifth number in the first 5, or the fifth number in the second 5 of the digits, then in this case we will have to go and print the following values in a new line. But if not, then the print will be in the same line. That's why we have end here. So if we try this, we find that it will print the 5 digits of the Al-Qur'an in the first line, then the second 5, and the third 5.